that he used for doing sand pictures, which came to a sad end. Those are the two main ones. Another chap called White, another German. He had another technique similar to Benjamin Zobel, but his most famous product is in Woburn Abbey, Duke of Bedford's seat. It's a screen, fire screen, no, not a fire screen, it's a room screen, 3 sections. On each section are the normal thing that you'd have on the table on the table decking arrangement, on top of a table. 3 sections containing sweetmeat dish spaces, and between them birds, animals, and so on, and flowers. That was protected by a layer of glass, and that still survives. It's in Woburn Abbey, but I don't think it's on public display.
So by the time the Victorians were starting to collect them, like the gentleman we can see there, Mr. Doré, what's his technique? Has it moved on again?
Well, I thought perhaps it had, but on examining that more closely, I think perhaps he probably took some lessons from Monsieur Haas.
So what would that have involved? So he's mixed the sand.
Possibly mix the sand with an adhesive.
Yeah, just tell me that then. So what I think this guy has done here is used Haas's technique.
What?
Mixed. Just tell Kate that what you think this one.
I think that Mr. Dawes, when he was producing his pictures, he used the Haas technique to do these pictures, but it may have included some varnish, which may have stopped the picture from falling apart. In any case, the heating systems in Victorian times were probably more efficient than they were in Georgian days. Yes. Okay.
And I was just going to say, you called him Doré earlier on and Doors there, which might be confusing.
Which is, he is...
Dore. D-O-R-E it is. Yes.
Dore. Okay.
Jack Dore.
You could say something without actually using
I need another colour there for there, and I haven't got one.
What colour do you need?
For the sea?
Yes. It's... I'll have to make it a funny sea. It'll have to be this colour. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. I've got a better one than that.
Could you mix a grey and a green to make it that sort of...
Try some of this. It's not very fine, this. Never mind, it'll do. It'll make it do.
How long does the timer last?
How long does?
Your feather, do you go through a lot of feathers?
No, I have favourites, unfortunately, and of course the others just deteriorate through age. The other important thing I mustn't do is open the funnel too far, otherwise you get a whole once it gets out, it tends to come out in a rush. This is going to be a difficult one. Can you see that?
Yeah. That's lovely.
It's not as good as I hoped, but never mind.
Just do a little bit more waves for me, as you were just doing.
See, I mean, the waves are all out of proportion, but this sand is not fine enough. It's too coarse. This particular colour I've picked on. So I think probably what I'll do is I'll just move that aside and use it as part of that, and use another finer colour, which I think was this one, which I should have used in the first place. So that should make a difference. In fact, what I'll do is I'll cancel that lot out. We use that as a beach. Hide the rest in there.
So is the lack of blue a bit of an issue, really?
Yes, they do try and overcome it by using ultramarine. There are sodalite is a semi-precious stone which they grind up, and you can use that. But I haven't used it. It comes from Namibia. Because these sand collectors, they're known as arenophiles. I think it originated in France, and they just collect sands, beach sands, sands from all sorts of places, cliffs, etc., but mainly beach sands from Waikiki and other places, other exotic locations, as well as places like the Antarctic. So they have vast collections of coloured sands, which they don't do anything with, you see, apart from just create these displays, which isn't quite my scene, but, you know, it suits some people. But there is a American geologist. She actually does sand pictures. She's what you describe. She's a naive artist in her work, rather along the, well, not quite George Lowry style, but very personalised, family orientated, and it's excuse the silence, but got to concentrate a bit.
Yeah. So, just tell me, just so we've got an introduction to that section, that the absence of blue is quite a problem. Just say that.
The absence of blue is quite a problem. The alternatives are sodalite and the precious stone, which is, I can't think of the name of it now, blue lapis lazuli, which one or two famous classical artists used to use anyways in their oil paintings.
But I was going to say, you haven't mentioned that obviously in this picture, the solution was to just paint, wasn't it?
Sorry?
That often they just painted the sky in, or
You need something softer now than sitting on that floor. Yes, they just...
as Dora's done here, often they just
That's right.
painted the sky in.
But only the Victorians did that, not the older ones.
So just tell me in Victorian times. Paul, you just-
In Victorian times, they just used to use a colour wash of blue sand, light, very light. Can we do that again?
Yeah. When you're ready.
In Victorian times, they used a blue colour wash to fill in the sky, as in this particular case of the picture that I'm working on here. But now I'm lost. I've run out of words.
Oh, that's good.
So, Marmotinto, where does that come from?
That's horrible, isn't it? Dear, oh dear. I think I have to throw that away. That's not very good. That's terrible sand, isn't it? Don't know where I dug that up from. Marmotinto was the exotic name that was given to the craft early on. Possibly pre-Georgian times. And the word is actually Marmo Tinto. It's of Italian origin, because originally, as I said, one of the things that they did, the table deckers did, was they used marble dust from the famous marble quarries in Italy to produce their table decoration pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, can I
Yeah. Carry on.
continue? Speed this up a bit now, I think.
It's all good stuff.
I think I've worn that one out.
Just drop that back and do that again for me, Brian, if you would. Okay, go.
Another very coarse colour. The pictures I do take anything from 8 hours to 60 hours. So it is a long process, and it's not always easy to condense it down to a shorter period.
So when you finished your pictures, if you had glue in them, you would normally put glue in all this,
Yeah, yes.
and then when you iron it, it melts the glue and sets it.
That's right.
Can you tell me that?
Not really. Well, I use the vapour from an iron to melt the glue, and then the melts the adhesive in the sand, and Bob's your uncle.
So where do you get the? So you get a sort of powdered adhesive, do you? And mix it in.
This
with
is
the
powdered
sand.
adhesive mixed with the sand. Yes.
Yeah, just do that for me. So I mix powdered before I start. I mix powdered adhesive.
Before I start, I mix powdered adhesive with the sand, and then after the picture, I don't necessarily a large picture. It's impossible to do the whole picture in one go, because otherwise you tend to, well, there's drafts, there's cats, there's children, there's just purely carelessness, dropping things. The picture wouldn't, couldn't stand it. So you have to do small areas, patches of the picture at one go, and then stick them and continue on with the next part. All right?
Lovely. Yeah,
Perfect.
that's great.
You actually mentioned ironing.
Well, yeah, it's it is irons, isn't it? It's just have to steam in it.
That's fine. Recognisably a good.
Yeah.
I haven't put the vital thing on the top, which is the old lighthouse. Now, I think if it was dark blue, that one, it would stand out, wouldn't it? Just a little blob round about there. Oh no, you can't see it from there, can you? Come the other side. Or isn't that possible?
Yeah, no, I can't do that now.
Hang
I'll
on.
see it. Yeah. Yeah. You just come from your point of view. Hang on. That's it. Go.
We'll make it a bigger one, just so you can see it. There we are. That's it. It was only a flat. It was only just a thing like that. It wasn't any height at all. It was just a little blooming ridiculous thing. Right, there we are. It's a bit bigger than it should be, but anyway. What else can we add in? Get some movement going. Some of these are very coarse, nearly as coarse as me. Palette's a bit limited now.
So did you work on these after work or holidays or what?
Just in the evenings, just to avoid watching television, I think, basically. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Well, I get fed up with watching blooming catering programs and X Factor and that sort of thing.
Is there anyone in your family taking it on?
Oh no, no. No, my son, he's into music, and he works with children. He's written a children's musical, but he's still got to get somewhere with it.
That's lovely, right? That's great.
It's not too bad. Oh, done it again. Simple as that.
So just do me a little finishing piece. Not
Flourish.
You know,
Flourish.
Just for us, we need to connect it back to the geology.
Right, okay.
So it's just, not a bad effort considering, all my materials here come straight out of the ground thanks to a bit of geological.
All the materials that I use have come straight out the ground. Naturally, they have to be sifted and make sure there are no foreign particles, foreign objects in the sand. And of course, naturally, the sands that are available in this part of the world, there's nothing toxic in any of them. So that's about it, I think. Is there something else that I should have added?
Just, it's all comes from the geology.
And it all comes from the geology of the particular area that one lives. It's practiced worldwide in different ways, going back to Navajo Indians and the Japanese and Buddhists, and even as far back as the ancient Aboriginals in Australia, who also did sand paintings.
When were your paints made, if you see what I mean? When did the geological process happen?
Some of it comes from sedimentary deposits laid down by the sea, and some of it comes from the quartz, which was emitted by volcanic eruptions many millions of years ago, getting discoloured by silence.
But the discoloration is a kind of peculiarity, isn't it? You see what I mean? It's not a normal. Or is it? Everywhere.
Well, think about it. Copper. You get a copper pipe explodes. Yeah. It goes green, doesn't it? So malachite. Malachite is actually a semi-precious stone, which of course developed from from copper deposits. Let's see if we can sort of, because this is main. It's not the colours that.
That's Africa. There you go. Allen Bay. And I know it's not drawn in its own sand, but
It looks more like.
And let's put a sky in, shall we? Just for the sake of the programme. It's going to be an odd colour. But it's the only one I've got. In fact, I will use that.
just do a tiny bit more of that if you wouldn't mind, Brian. Just so you can see the sand coming out the bottom. Lovely, that's fine.
Right, okay. Best I can do for clouds at the moment.
Well, I think we'll better look at that and see then. Just do me a little more blowing there.
Can't help the white streaky bits.
It's lovely. I think it's great.
It doesn't make any sense to talk about the beach and then see the picture here.
Right, okay.
Well, it does. Not in situ.
Separate them out there.
Yeah.
And then you can use them to put
Make texture. Is that what?
texture.
Yes. Excellent. Because I have done a little bit with sand, just with children actually, as an activity. But very simply, obviously.
So as you can see, it's.
But I didn't know about using feathers. Clever idea. So I'm in your way.
No,
I'll
you
try
can
to do
move
it.
this one.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. You had finished.
Yeah, we're finished.
36,000 hits last year before last. It's now up to getting on for 100,000 hits a year now. So
Wow.
it's obviously when I put that on there, it made a hell of a difference
Yeah, excellent.
to the interest and
Definitely.
yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look on that as well. Should you use the cones? I should have kind of watched you do it, shouldn't I? I didn't like to interrupt you, Phil. Use the cones to